All right, strap in, because this one is designed to make people mad. They told us it would never happen. They said, move on. They said, AJ Lee is history. So explain this. Explain why the WWE Universe just collectively lost its mind after Raw, February 9th, when the words Elimination Chamber and AJ Lee suddenly existed in the same sentence as Becky Lynch. Because if you're sitting there calm right now, you're either lying or you didn't actually watch what went down. And before we even break this apart, I want to know something. Who do you believe deserves that Elimination Chamber spot more, AJ Lee or Becky Lynch? Drop your answer right now, because by the end of this video, you might change your mind. Raw didn't open with fireworks. It didn't open with nostalgia bait. It opened with tension. Becky Lynch walked out like someone carrying the weight of an entire division on her back. And let's be real, for years she has. No over-the-top theatrics, no forced hype, just that look. The look that says, I dare someone to step up. And she said it. Becky stood in the middle of that ring and said the women's division had gotten comfortable. Comfortable. Let that sink in. She called out the locker room for waiting their turn instead of taking it. She talked about Elimination Chamber like it wasn't just another premium live event, but a reckoning. She said whoever walked into that chamber with her better be ready to bleed for relevance. And then the crowd started buzzing because something felt off. Have you ever felt that moment when a wrestling segment suddenly doesn't feel scripted anymore? Like the air changes? That's what happened. The lights didn't go out, no dramatic cue hit. Instead, that music hit, and half the arena screamed while the other half froze. AJ Lee. Not a video package, not a Hall of Fame nod. AJ Lee standing on the stage, staring straight at Becky Lynch. So let me ask you, did you immediately believe it, or did you think WWE was messing with us? Be honest in the comments. Here's what made this moment hit harder than it should have. AJ didn't smile, no skipping, no playful wave. This wasn't the AJ Lee we left behind. This was a woman who looked like she had unfinished business and maybe some resentment. She walked to the ring slowly, deliberately, like she was reminding everyone that time passing doesn't erase history. And Becky? She didn't back up. She didn't flinch. 2 generations, 2 ideologies, 2 women who, in very different ways, changed WWE forever. And the tension was thick. AJ picked up a microphone and said something that instantly split the fan base down the middle. I watched you build a revolution on a foundation that people like me broke our bodies to lay for Ryan. Whew, right there, lines drawn. So I need to know. Do you agree with AJ's statement, or do you think Becky earned everything on her own? This is one of those debates that never dies. AJ didn't stop there. She said she watched Becky become the man, watched the company wrap the division around her, watched history get rewritten, and then she dropped the line that made social media explode. If you really are the standard, then you won't be afraid to face the past. That's when Becky finally smiled. Not a happy smile. A dangerous one. She fired back, saying AJ walked away when things got hard, while she stayed and carried the division through injuries, disrespect, and expectations AJ never had to deal with. And here's where it got spicy. Becky said, "You don't get to come back and skip the line just because people remember you." The crowd popped, but also booed, because that's the uncomfortable truth, isn't it? So answer this. Should legends get instant title shots, or should they earn their way back up? AJ's response? Cold. She said she didn't want a shortcut. She wanted Elimination Chamber. She wanted Becky locked inside steel, with nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, nowhere to rewrite history. And the second she said it, you could feel WWE leaning into chaos. But here's the part nobody's talking about enough. AJ didn't challenge Becky for a title. She challenged her for relevance. That's way more dangerous. Think about it. If Becky beats AJ, people say, of course she did. If AJ beats Becky, the entire women's division shifts overnight. And Raw knew it, because instead of giving us an answer right away, they let the tension boil. Officials came out, security hovered, and Becky finally said the words everyone wanted. If you step into that chamber with me, don't blame the steel when it breaks you. That's not a yes, that's a threat. So here's a question. Who do you think WWE is more afraid to have lose this match? Now let's talk about the bigger picture, because this isn't just about Becky and AJ. This is about what Elimination Chamber represents. It's not a comeback match. It's not a nostalgia tour. That structure destroys legacies, and WWE choosing that setting tells us everything. They don't want AJ protected. They want her tested, and that should scare people. Because AJ Lee was never about brute strength. She was about mind games, timing, psychological warfare. Inside the chamber, that skill set becomes lethal. So let me ask, do you think AJ's style actually gives her an advantage in Elimination Chamber? Raw kept twisting the knife. Backstage segments showed other women watching monitors in silence. Some looked annoyed, some looked inspired, and some threatened. Because let's be real, AJ Lee walking back into WWE doesn't just target Becky Lynch. It puts everyone else on notice. The division suddenly isn't safe, and Becky knows that better than anyone. The closing moments of Raw were genius. No brawl, no cheap shot, just AJ and Becky standing face to face as the chamber graphic flashed behind them. Two icons, one cage, and commentary dropped the final line. History doesn't stay buried forever. That wasn't hype. That was a warning. So now we wait and argue and pick sides. So here are a few final questions I need you to answer in the comments. Is AJ Lee's return overdue or unnecessary? If AJ beats Becky, does that erase Becky's legacy or elevate it? Who walks out of Elimination Chamber changed forever? And most importantly, are you rooting for the future or the past? Because one of them is about to be humbled. And Ring Rumble is watching every second. And here's where things get even more uncomfortable, because the moment Raw went off the air, the real war started, not in the ring, online. Within minutes, timelines were on fire. Old clips of AJ Lee's pipe bombs resurfaced. Becky Lynch promos were stitched side by side with AJ's iconic moments. Fans weren't just debating a match. They were arguing about who actually saved the women's division. So let me throw another small question at you right now. If WWE erased history tomorrow, whose impact would be felt more? AJ Lee's or Becky Lynch's? Because that's the argument WWE just intentionally reignited. Let's talk about what Raw didn't say out loud, but absolutely implied. AJ Lee didn't return because WWE needed a pop. They returned her because Becky Lynch's era has reached a crossroads. For years, Becky has been positioned as the measuring stick. Beat Becky and you matter. Lose to Becky and you learn. But AJ doesn't learn. AJ disrupts. She represents a time when women didn't get safety nets, long title reigns, or carefully protected losses. She fought in an era where one bad match could erase you from TV for months. And that's why this hits harder. AJ didn't ask Becky for respect. She demanded accountability. Now, think about Becky's position for a second. She didn't challenge AJ. AJ challenged her. That matters. Becky didn't go looking for the past, but the past found her anyway. And that puts Becky in a dangerous psychological spot. Because how do you prepare for someone who's already lived through the worst version of this business? Here's a question you probably haven't thought about yet. Is Becky Lynch more vulnerable now than she's ever been? Raw's subtle storytelling deserves credit here. Backstage, Becky was shown lacing her boots after the confrontation, alone. No hype, no pep talk, just silence. AJ, on the other hand, smiling, talking calmly to an interviewer, saying she's been waiting a long time for this conversation. That contrast wasn't accidental. One woman feels pressure, the other feels freedom, and that should terrify Becky fans. Let's break down why Elimination Chamber is the worst possible environment for Becky Lynch against AJ Lee. Elimination eliminates rhythm, no long entrances, no crowd pacing, no momentum control. Becky thrives on energy, feeding off reactions, building emotion, pulling people into her story. AJ thrives in chaos, short bursts, sudden attacks, psychological resets. In a match where steel decides timing, AJ doesn't need to outpower Becky, she just needs to outthink Becky. So tell me, does Becky's usual game plan even work inside the chamber? And then there's the elephant in the room. This isn't a one-on-one match, it's Elimination Chamber. That means other women, other grudges, other opportunists. And here's the genius move by WWE. They didn't announce the full lineup because everyone now is asking the same question. Who benefits most from AJ and Becky destroying each other? Someone's going to pick the bones. Someone always does. Let's talk about legacy for a moment because that's what this match is really about. AJ Lee left WWE on her terms, but not without scars. Becky Lynch built an empire, but empires eventually get challenged. If AJ loses, she becomes a symbol of what once was. If Becky loses, she becomes something worse, human. And WWE has spent years convincing us Becky Lynch is untouchable. Elimination Chamber says otherwise. Another subtle detail from Raw that people missed. When AJ mentioned rewritten history, the crowd reaction shifted.